We are live, and now I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode of Mind, Your Body, and Soul. I am Joseph Ward, and I'm riding solo, but I do want to give a shout out to my co-host, Mr. Mathias Sweet. Also, our guest host, Miss Alana Steaple. I miss you guys, and I'm going to hold it down for you today. Remember, Mind, Your Body, and Soul is an educational podcast that focuses on all things health related, to help our listeners learn more about various health topics and information they may not have access to. We seek to inform, empower, uplift, and mobilize our listeners to become the healthiest versions of themselves. Mind, Your Body, and Soul is available every Wednesday, but if we don't release on Wednesday, you're still going to get it that week. And check out our parent website at www.neighborhoodmedicalcenter.org. You can also check out our podcast website at www.nmcpodcast.com. We're also available on Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and make sure you check us out on YouTube. You're looking at this on YouTube, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, and share, because we want to make sure as many people as possible get this information. That's why we do this. All right, so today I'm excited about this. We have two great people on our podcast who are real soldiers in the fight for our community, but especially in the fight against the spread of HIV/AIDS. For those who have been watching our podcast for a while, thank you. But for those who are new to this podcast, one of the things that we do, in echoing what I said in the intro, we really want people to make sure that they have the information, but not just have it, understand it, and can practically use this information. I feel like if we do our job right, I'm supposed to be working myself out of a job, because we have less and less amount of people contracting HIV, and I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. I would sleep at night knowing that we made a great contribution. And so this episode is another installment in that contribution, and I wanted to make this happen because we need to make sure that we have realistic stories about what happens with the spread of HIV/AIDS, but also triumphant stories. So this couple in front of me, we share the same last name, so greatness is in the building. Okay,
right here, it's on the screen. It's on the screen.
We're talking about the singing chef, a master chef, a seamstress, a dancer, authors, leaders, people who were able to build their own organization to be able to give back to their community. And I'm just so happy to have them. So I'd like to welcome Pastors Robert and Jerilyn Ward to Mind, Your Body, and Soul. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
Yes.
We love your title, Mind, Body, and Soul. We love that.
Yes. Because when we're thinking about this podcast, we wanted to make sure it's something that we can stand on, we'll be proud of, but also encompasses our total mission, and it's really helping the person holistically. Like if your mind is together and your body is together and your soul is together, you're totally healthy rather than being out of balance. We want to understand that.
Yes, sir.
So once again, like I said, thank you for taking the time out to be a part of this podcast. So and I want people to get to know you. I really want people to get to know you. So my first question is, always the same, but can you give the people some background information about yourselves and kind of explain to the people why HIV/AIDS prevention is important?
Ladies first.
All right. So my background is I'm the oldest of 5 children. I've got 2 2-year degrees from 2 community colleges. Yay, community colleges. And my husband and I have been married as of July 30th, 2021, 30 years.
Congratulations.
Yes, we were 11 years in, going a little past 10 years, finding out that we had HIV/AIDS, and sent our world reeling, the both of us. And And so we believe it's important. I believe it's important to prevent the spread of this disease, because it does change your life. It is not something that is for the faint of heart, because you really have to maintain mind, body, and soul to live with it.
Yeah.
You have to maintain all three to be successful.
Yeah. And I am Robert Ward. I'm born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The second son of my parents. I grew up, graduated from South Plantation High School down south in Plantation, Florida, and went to Bethune-Cookman College. Had to go back home for a little while to take care of my mom because she was sick. She was ill, and after she passed away, I moved back to Daytona Beach, and that's where I met Jerilyn. I am a chef. I've been a chef for over 40 years. I've done everything from fast food to fine dining. So I've gone from 0 stars to 5 stars. I worked for Disney for a little bit, and I've worked country clubs, hotels, and I really enjoyed this ride because I love cooking. I love putting my hands into food, learning what the food is all about and everything like that. If I could say anything about the HIV, I don't think we took it as serious as it was when it first came out. And I don't think people take it serious until it hits home.
Right.
Once it hits home, people are scrambling because the first thing they think of is a death sentence. And we learned over the years that it wasn't a death sentence. It was only a death sentence to those who would not talk about it and would not get help. And I talk to anybody who would listen, how to prevent, and if you have it, how to walk your life through it. And your life is not over. It's just the beginning of a new season. So we're learning those things more and more, and that's why we want to become more active in the community.
Right. Now, I appreciate how that was worded, because it emphasizes prevention, making sure you don't wait for something to come upon your doorstep before you try to get active and try to make sure you become a part of the solution. Already be a part of the solution before it gets there. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So, if you don't mind, and as comfortable as you feel, could you kind of give our audience some information about your experience of living with HIV, and kind of give us some more information about that? Because I know you said you previously just said that you really didn't take it serious, but can you give us your experience, and also what type of education did you receive about just safe sex in general or HIV before your experience with HIV?
Okay, that's good. That's a good question. Let's see. Since we've contracted it, I have been in and out of the hospital several times. I had with a PCP pneumonia about maybe 4 or 5 times. And if anybody doesn't know what PCP pneumonia is, it is when the HIV, the virus, turns into full-blown AIDS, and it's a pneumonia that attaches itself with that. And so there was a couple of times that I did not know if I was going to be here sitting in front of you today. And I had to have my two eye lenses had to be totally replaced because I had what they call cataracts in both my eyes, which was also a result of HIV. Right now I have the top teeth in my mouth is the implant, because part of HIV, that's where a part of HIV is you start losing bone density and messes with your teeth. So contracting the disease, I started researching it after we had contracted it. Well, I contracted it first, and then my wife had it. But it wasn't before marriage. It was during marriage. I stepped out on my wife, and in doing so, did not know that I had contracted anything, and not using any protection or anything like that. And then finding out when I did contract it, when I did find out that we had it, I started doing all the research I tried to do about HIV and what it would entail and everything like that. And I started reading some really, really horrible things about what it would do to your body and your lifestyle and everything like that. So one thing I prayed, I did not want my wife to go through that, because she wasn't the one who sinned, I did. And so I took the brunt of everything, and the medications and everything like that. And it's just the medications alone. And for us, it's if we didn't have a good insurance, we would be paying about $25,000 to $3,000 a month in prescriptions alone.
Wow.
So, but if I could tell anybody anything about preventiveness, and I've said it once and I said it again, I said over and over again, the best thing for you to do is abstain. And if you don't have the willpower to discipline to abstain, you at least protect yourself. But we still don't understand that even when you do protect yourself, the virus is still very, very small, and it can get through whatever protection that you have. So it's just man, it's just a whole different learning experience, a whole different arena. It's not like the flu. It's not like COVID. It's not like anything, because it's a long lasting. It's a lifetime thing. You know, I know they shifted it from being a deadly disease into something chronic, a chronic disease. But still, you got to operate with that stigma. And I know we're going to talk about that later on. You have anything?
My experience with HIV is the medications initially were just really too strong. And when I found out, after I started taking them, that they were created for a man that was 280 pounds. Wow. And I was only 100 and something. And so I couldn't function. That was my experience. I couldn't function initially. And so I went through periods where I didn't take the medication, which was not good. I didn't take it because, in my mind, I've got a husband and 3 children to take care of. I can't have diminished capacity, but that still wasn't good. But in the process of that, they introduced medications that were more conducive to women. Okay. I'm not going to say Black women. I'm just saying women in general, because I know they're still working on that, because there's still some challenges with the medication for African-American women. Which, we'll advocate on that another time. My education about HIV before my experience was not very good. It's what we all are experiencing. I know we're going to deal with it later, but stigmatized. It's a hush-hush conversation. People lie about what family members die from when they're dying from that. So my experience before living with it, that's what it was, knowing that people were not telling the truth, and that they're saying they died from this or died from that, or just say complications. They never tell you what they really die from. So then you don't know what's going on. So that was my experience before living with it.
Okay. Yeah. And after living with it, you don't want to say anything. We didn't talk about it for 3 or 4 years after we had contracted it.
Right.
And then afterwards, we were pretty much on our own. Our families, neither one of our families didn't want us around, which was just crazy. But it is what it is.
But it's so different now.
That's good. So, okay, and I want to ask this question, because I know my just general sex education was, if I say subpar, that would be too much. It was below something. It was below that. Yeah. So what was your just general sexual education like literally, like what were you taught, or what weren't you taught rather?
I wouldn't talk jack. I wouldn't talk anything. I think the only sexual education I got, just if you want me to be real, is my dad was a rolling Papa was a Rolling Stone, okay? And I knew, Mama knew, but that was the only thing that we knew. You know, we grew up. You know, we just understood that you could still be a pastor or reverend or evangelist and still have women on the side. That was just a given, okay? And so we didn't have any kind of sexual education whatsoever. I didn't even want to talk to my dad because my brother had told me his experience with talking with my dad about it, and that wasn't good at all. So and Mama, she had 4 boys. How you don't really know how to talk to your 4 boys about sex, you know?
Right.
All she can just tell you is just to keep it in your pants, you know. And because you're not ready to have she wasn't ready to have grandchildren, and she wanted any out of wedlock. So that was my sex education.
I think it is about the same for me. I think the only the only thing that was different for me was that when I came through school, they were starting to have classes where they had health education and they were talking about it. And so I got some information, but inside my household, it was, you know, keep your panties up, you know, don't be behind the school with no boys. And, you know, you ain't got time for that. You know, you got to get your books, and, you know, never really a conversation to sit down and explain feelings and emotions and, you know, what to do with them, how to rightly divide them, and all of that. You never really had that. But once I got to 6th grade and we had the health education, and you're starting to, you know, hear things and understand, they gave us this little book. I kept it for as long as I can. I don't even think I have it anymore, but it was so cool with all the information. So that was it. And they just generalized STDs, you know, HIV was not in there. They just generalized things. So the education was still limited.
Yeah, that's one of the main issues. And still today, even though the education is much better, you still have some people who are hesitant to get into it. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, okay.
So I do want to ask, and you could answer this question whether the impact was positive or negative, but can you explain like the impact that HIV has had on your lives overall?
It kind of took my strength in a lot of areas. I had a conversation with my daughter, her senior year in high school, and I was driving her back and forth to the doctor to get her physicals and everything like that. And we were having a conversation in the car, and I was saying to her, I hope that you all, my worst fear is that my children will grow up hating me because of the decisions that I made and how it impacted the family. I'll never forget what she said. And she said it so strongly that at 17 years old, Dad, don't ever say that to me again. Because you are my daddy, and I would never hate you. We will never hate you. And she said that we missed the money that you used to make. But other than that, you know, that's the way that was. And it's hard having a conversation. I mean, we had conversations. I mean, every year after we found out, we had conversations with our children as they grew up, so that they can understand it, because you have stages of growth, so they really understand everything that we have gone through, and we made it our decision not to keep secrets anymore.
Right.
And that was the experience that I can remember most.
So you kind of flipped it. You did the negatively and then went to the positively. So negatively, you know, it just really changed the dynamic of our household. You know, like my husband said, he wasn't able to be the breadwinner that he had always been, you know, and that affects everything. That affects our psyche. It affects your psyche. It affects the relationship, how we function. So to me, those were the negative impacts. But the positive impact is we had to make the choice and the decision to work through those. So I think positively, we've gained some things, you know, in who we are, in our mind, body, and our soul. We've gained some things that, and we've learned how to be innovative. We've had to pivot and do different things to be creative. You know, when we didn't have that much money, we had to be creative about how to fix the meals and what to do. You know, what to do about the children's clothes and different things. So I believe the positive, you know, in respect to the negative, is that we gain some things that we probably wouldn't have gained, you know, without that challenge, without these challenges in front of us.
And with the program that we were in initially, I mean, it was just a fantastic program, and they didn't treat us like dirt.
Okay.
They treated us like human beings that needed help. And that helped us tremendously to get up on our feet and help my wife and my kids to get some things that they needed, the day by day things, you know. So it turned, what was negative turned out to be a positive, because now we can share to different couples and share to the world. Like I said before, that it's not over.
Right.
You just got to take care of yourself now.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I'm happy you said that. There are a lot of people. I love what I do. I love working in HIV/AIDS prevention. But the part of my job that I enjoy it, but it's a bittersweet. And I don't want to frame it like that, but the sweet part is I get to help somebody help themselves, but I don't enjoy telling somebody that they're HIV positive.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that part, but I enjoy being able to lay out a plethora of resources in front of them.
Yes.
Let them know that, you know, you have a whole community of people willing to help you and here to help you. And so that's why I'm glad you said that. And I want to echo that to people. Of course, we want to make sure people protect themselves. But if you find yourself, if you find that you are positive, there are people like us. We are willing to be in your corner.
Yes, absolutely.
So you don't have to go through this alone. And we don't. And if you are out there and you're looking at this and you feel like you're alone, contact us.
Yes.
You're not alone. And if we're not the best ones for you, guess what? We can connect you with people who can.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. That's good stuff.
Get you to the resources.
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask this, in your opinion, because we alluded to it earlier about sexual education, but now it's more so of our perceptions and attitude towards sex. If you look at social media and you look at TV and videos, you would think that the Black community as a whole has a fairly free and liberal and modern idea of sex, but in reality, the Black community is still rather conservative when it comes to sex.
Absolutely.
It's true.
So in 2021, why do you think it's still a challenge for the Black community as well as Black religious communities to not only talk about sex, but implement safe sex programs within their inner workings to help prevent the spread of HIV or even STDs or unwanted pregnancies?
Because of mindsets. There's mindsets, and it's amazing how in the African American community, how things through our lineage just get such a stronghold, and it's like you plowing against it to change mindsets. And there has to be a willingness. There seems to be a lack of willingness to see things in the right way. And I think I alluded to this in the other podcast we did with you, that, you know, if I could say something to the Black community, we need some inner healing. We need to heal from the inside and understand that this way that we've been doing this all the time, it's not working. Okay, it's not working, you know, because when they first started off, if a daughter got pregnant, she got shipped off to the grandma or the best friend that you call auntie, or, you know, she got shipped over here somewhere, and, you know, nobody was talking about it. So just that one example is an example of what we do in this community. No, we need to open it up and begin to talk about things and tear down these mindsets that have become strongholds regarding sex. And even with parents thinking that, oh, they'll figure it out, or they'll find out. No. We don't want them to figure it out.
Right.
They need to hear from you as their parent in a educated, loving environment, how to do this when they go out there. Because when they go out on the street and they get the street version, there is no undoing that. Okay,
there's no undoing it.
There's no undoing it. That's that, and you would prefer for them to have an understanding that sex inside of marriage is supposed to be a beautiful thing. It's supposed to be like heaven on earth, and explain to them how to do that so that they'll understand that if you say abstinence, they would have a joy in waiting for that experience. Okay. All right. And then if they're not going to do it that way, parents have to be balanced, and you're going to have to tell them, okay, if you're not going to do it this way, the conventional way, then you need to do things to protect yourself. Okay. Whether it's medication, kind of whatever it is, you need to do things to protect yourself if you're going to live the lifestyle, this other way.
And the church is still stuck. The church is still stuck in the dark ages. They don't want to talk about stuff because they don't know how to address it. They won't even get in the community and ask questions. They won't even say, well, can you come into my church and talk about this, so that to help educate us so we can educate our people. And so they're still stuck because even Jesus went outside the church, because who did he spend more time with? The publicans and sinners. Okay. Right. And if you don't spend time with people, you won't know who needs help. And if you don't open yourself up, you got to open your heart up. Okay. Now some of the ministries we have been involved with, some just wanted us to be a little experiment, in a petri dish, to see if God's going to heal us or not under their willpower. And when you don't know that this person is a human being, he was the same person that you grew up with, she was the same person that you grew up with. She's your son. She's your daughter. He's your son, and they need love trying to traffic through the things that they're trafficking through. And if we don't open this thing up, we're going to find more and more things that are going to start happening. And that's why it's happening in our community, because that's why it's more than just HIV/AIDS. You have rape, you have incest, you have a whole lot of stuff going on in the community and in the church because we keep things sheltered. We keep this tight grip on everything, and we just won't open up. Okay, so if we begin to open up, that's why we're here. If we want to start opening this thing up, and we have to blow a hole in the wall, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not scared.
Yeah, but now I'm with you because we want to make sure that we can have more people in our community as a whole talking about it. Now, I do want to acknowledge that there has been progress, and there are a lot more churches that are allowing and providing safe sex material. So we do want to do that. But overall, if we're being honest and we're still looking at the numbers, our community's numbers are still the highest.
Yeah.
As far as the percentages and the rates when it comes to HIV/AIDS. So we got work to do.
A lot of work.
We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
Yes.
All right. Well, we rolling up some sleeves, Joe.
Exactly. Sleeves, pants, legs. We come and put on a hard hat. We're ready.
Go.
Yes.
Right. So, stigma. Stigma is something that is. We did a podcast with a young lady named Dr. Jasmine Simmons, and she did a great job of breaking down different levels and different types of stigma. And I thought that was excellent. But like I say, stigma is something that's very, very, very prevalent, and stigma surrounding HIV is also prevalent. So for you, how have you personally dealt with stigma in your life? And what advice would you give to others to be able to push past the stigma and continue on their journey for whatever they're pursuing, not allowing stigma to stifle them and treat them like they can't because they have HIV?
Well, let me do this first. Let me give it a definition of stigma. I don't think you know. It's a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So it's like you like a leper
Or a scar.
or a scarlet, and now you go ahead.
What I would say is it's based on who you know you are. And I think that challenge, if we don't know who we are, then the stigma can reign. It can reign because you don't know who you are. And so for us, in order for us to, shake loose from the stigma, like I was saying earlier, we had a lot of challenges we had to work through. And the positive side is now we have things in place to help us, So now the more we talk about this and the more we shut down the shame, because it's not just stigma, but it's also shame, that, hey, I'm walking around, I'm living with this. The more that we build ourselves up on the inside, we help pull down the shame, and it helps us walk through the stigma, because it's still going to be there. People going to whisper. You're going to hear them. They're going to whisper when you leave or whatever. We've had, as my husband said the last time we were on a podcast, people, washing their hands, cleaning off microphones and stuff, but now with COVID, everybody doing that. It don't matter. Everybody doing that for everything.
Right.
And so, but to bring down the stigmas, I believe that each individual needs to have a core conversation where they know who they are and they are becoming more confident in who they are. And with that, then they will start choosing life, and they'll take the medicine that they're supposed to take to maintain their life. And then that will help them where they're more insulated from these stigmas where people, because it's really in people's mind, about what you understand. I'm sure the young lady broke it down on the levels of why it got to that way, but it's really in their mind. And so if you change your mind, then you can still function and be insulated against what others are thinking.
Right.
Because you have to know and understand, and then I know it's hard, especially when family members push your way.
Yeah, you feel alone.
And you feel alone. You've got to know that there are people out there. That's why you have to put this out there, that there are people out there just like you, and they can help you walk through this thing
and live
a better life, and teach you how to. Because I have a statement on my web page called live well, eat well, be well. And you have to learn how to adjust yourself and do the things that you do. Start thinking positively. Thank God every single day you're alive. Every day you wake up, I'm here for something. What purpose are you here for? It doesn't change because you got this HIV/AIDS statement. It doesn't. You still have a purpose here on this planet.
Exactly.
You still have to walk that vision out, walk those goals out. Pick yourself off, dust yourself off, find a group of people, a circle of people that will support you and help you work your way through this.
And you can shake a stigma off with those positive things being in your life.
But
that's how you shake it off.
You can't shake it off by enforcing negative with negative.
And then separating yourself and being by yourself, because that's not going to help.
No.
Right. And I know on the other end is people need to be educated about HIV/AIDS, because like you said, and I don't know how prevalent it still is, but I'm sure it still happens where people say making somebody who's positive use separate dishes or be in separate places and all these things. And that's because people not understanding transmission methods.
Right.
And it goes back to education. That's why what we do as educators is we get out into the community, right? Doing outreach, doing these podcasts like these. We getting out into the community so it can help change people's perceptions. Because when I do classes, somebody still may think that saliva or sweat or some of the things may transmit HIV, or they have the idea that, okay, well, this person has HIV. I don't need to be around them because they're going to get me sick. Not understanding, no.
Mm-hmm.
They have if you have HIV, your immune system is compromised.
Yes.
I'm more of a threat to you than you are to me.
Yes.
I can have a regular cold.
Yes.
And my regular cold, if I pass it to you, could put you in the hospital.
Yes.
It's true.
I'm down for 2 or 3 weeks.
And so we want people to really understand, like, that's not a joke. That's really what it is. And one of the main things about the transmission of HIV, they call it a bloodborne pathogen. So in order for it to get from somebody else's bloodstream to your bloodstream, something intimate had to happen. Whether it's injecting or whatever, something intimate had to happen.
Yes.
So it's not just no passing by anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just get people to understand.
They got to they have to understand it.
Gotta be educated.
I don't know if you remember when Magic Johnson had contracted it, and that last basketball game he played. No, he came down court. I think he cut himself. Somebody scratched him, and he started bleeding wherever he was.
Yeah, I remember.
Nobody would touch him.
I remember that game.
He had to take himself out of the game and sit on the sideline.
I know he felt crushed.
But where is he now? He's been an advocate for HIV. He and his wife Cookie have been an advocate for HIV since that time. And so if you see people out there that are positive talking about it, then join in there. You know, you got people who won't put you down. Well, you just link arms together and let's walk this thing out.
Now, speaking of that, you just made me think of this. Now, if you don't mind, how long have you lived with HIV?
This January was February, 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. Okay. And the reason why I'm asking that, and I'm juxtaposing you guys to Magic Johnson, because there's still a lot of people who believe that you have to be 100 millionaire to live.
Talk about that.
And what I tell them, no, it's about will. At the end of the day, it's more about will than money. Liberace was wealthy. Arthur Ashe was wealthy. There are a lot of people who are wealthy.
Come on now. Come on.
But it's more about will
and
using your resources than the money. So could you speak to that as well?
Well, it's one, my wife didn't leave me. Okay. That's the first positive note. Okay. And that showed the strength of willpower. And then to start educating ourselves and doing everything that we know to do, to find out about what we need to do to live, to live. Okay. And then we did not put that, label ourselves as, okay, we're probably gonna be dead in the next 5 years.
Never said it.
No. We just lived every single day, got the information that we need to get. And we moved back to Florida. We got a hold of a community outreach place called Outreach. I remember how Q was her name.
Q Simpson.
Q Simpson. And she saw us and she ran back in that building and she said, I need to find everything I need to do to help this couple. She said, I've never seen a couple like you before. I never heard your story before. And she just gave us all the education that we needed. She hooked us up with the doctors that we needed, everything that we needed. She was there for, to help us take care of our kids, to help us take care of us, to help us to walk through this whole thing.
And I want to speak to that too, because I know that you probably work with people. If there are people and there are resources that are willing to help you, don't, like they say, bite the hand that feeds you. If they are giving you information, take the information and use it. Because I know a lot of the advocates and counselors and things, they have a struggle to try to assist and help. So my thing is, don't give them a hard time trying to help you. They understand what you're going through. So allow them to help you, because I think that's part of the challenge too in this education, where you're already feeling the stigma, whatever you got a whole ball of emotions. But if you got somebody that's reaching, don't bite that hand. Allow that hand to reach out to you. Allow them to give you your resources. Don't shut it down, because where you are, you don't need to be alone. You don't that mind, body, and soul you're talking about. You don't need to be alone when you're trying to deal with that. You need somebody to talk to get yourself out of that.
The thing that got me about Q was that she touched me. No gloves, no barrier. She touched me with her hand, and she hugged us.
Every time she saw us.
Every time, you know, and you can't beat that with a stick.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yes, sir.
And once again, you all are doing an excellent job of articulating the reality of it. And I want to say this to my fellow counselors, testers, trainers, my fellow people who work in HIV. Listen to what they just said about humanizing somebody. We're dealing with human beings. And it wasn't the lady Q, bless her heart, right? Because it wasn't, he didn't say she gave him $1 million. He didn't say he brought her a castle or did all these things, introduced him to the president, simply touched him, treated him like a human being on a regular level, just touched him. So let's think about those things, because I'm thank you for saying that, because it's a constant reminder for me and my fellow counselors that it's the simple things sometimes, but just on a human level, how do you connect with people on a human level?
Yes. Oh Lord.
I appreciate that.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Russian memories though for us.
Yes. So many.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate it. Now, you've had a chance to chronicle your experiences. I got my time.
There we go.
And I want people to see it and read it. So for better and for worse, a dramatic testimony of staying married despite having HIV/AIDS. This is the name of the book. Please tell us about the book. And I know you're at a point now where you don't mind telling your story, but at this point, what really made you comfortable enough and secure enough in your message and in your marriage to say, let's tell our story?
We had spiritual coverings where there were different people that were ministering to us and saying that we should write it out. And along with them saying we should write it out, other information comes that they tell you that if you journal, if you write things out, there's a healing process that happens when you're doing that. And so as we were writing the story, I know for me, there were challenges sometimes because we were still living it. It was still hard for me. It was hard for me because we were living it. Like I said earlier, learning things about ourselves, having to pivot. And, that's not always a real smooth, package with a bow on it that you're working through. So we were working through it. So it was challenging. But the more we wrote and the more we shared about it and the more we talked about what we did to overcome different things, the easier it was to write. Now, it took us a long time to write it. We started in 2007, okay? And we didn't finish it, until early 2018. And then we finally got it published in 2019. And, there were some challenges along the way, but writing it was therapeutic. And then when we started thinking more and more about who it would reach, that gave us more fuel. And then that helped us pick up the pace in writing it, because we were thinking about people on the other side of the book and how that would help them. And then we were encouraged to make sure we put statistics and information, true information about the disease in the book. So that gave us even more fuel, because here you are, you're giving information to help people on the other side of reading this book. What are statistics, how you take care of yourself and all of that. So that's I feel like that's our real story about how we wrote this book.
It was tough. It was tough because there would have been times when I brought legal pads for me to write on. And I started writing, and the memories, just like a few minutes ago, memories started coming back, and I had to stop. Had to stop and just put it away for a minute and catch myself, because you start feeling the pains You start feeling the rejection of family and the things that people say. And like Jerilyn said, then you start thinking about the people who are going through the same thing.
Right.
So we got to write this book. So that we got to give them a voice more than we have a voice. Give them a voice
too.
Because somebody else out there has a story, and maybe we can help them write their story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Lord have mercy. Joe, you're bringing back some stuff.
And the reason why we decided on the title, because it was a play on words. In your wedding vows, you say for better or for worse. It's WORSE. And so when we started thinking of a title, we said, well, this was the worst thing, so that we thought could happen to us. And so that's why we changed it to for better or for worst. And then every time we would tell somebody the name of the book, they would try to correct our English and say, no, it's for worse. No, for worse, we're saying, no, it's for worst, because this is the worst thing that we could have imagined that could have happened to us in our marriage. And so that's how the title came about for the book.
Yes.
I mean, I've started on it. I'm enjoying reading it so far. I know this weekend I'm definitely going to dive in it a lot more. But I appreciate that you wrote it, because I think, as I consider myself an ally, but I think one of our strongest or two of our strongest weapons that we have, for one, is to shut up and listen. As an ally, that's like the first thing.
Yes.
To be quiet and listen. Yes, I have all this HIV information, but is it practical?
Yes.
And can you take it out and actually help somebody with the information that you have, or you just have it?
That's good, Joe.
Oh my God,
that's really
bro.
good, Joe.
Because like listening to you tell your story and listening to others tell their story. I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, we for National HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, we usually do a 3-day event at Neighborhood Medical Center. The first day we have a person who's HIV positive, who's taking a certain medicine, who's giving an experience about the medicine. The second day is a drag show, and the third day is like a gospel drag show. But this one particular gospel drag show, and people can have whatever thoughts they have about religion and people's sexuality or whatever, but it hit me different to see human beings and how they deal with rejection. And when you said that, you made me think about it, because they were people who have a group of people who have been outcasted by communities who they put their trust in, who they thought loved them. And when the communities found out the sexual orientation, they were saying, we're not dealing with you anymore. And so they had to find their own way and was able to craft their own families and things. But just to see the pain come out, just to see people's pain come out, it I don't care whatever walk of life you come from. We got to think twice about how we treat each other.
Absolutely.
We have to do that, because I don't have to agree with everything you do, but at the end of the day, is what you're doing hurting anybody else? Well, it's your life. You can choose to do what you want to do. But the thing is, if we're gonna call ourselves allies, we got to be allies, be quiet, listen, and learn, and reach people on the human level. That's what we need to do, because it hits you different. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like to see people go through pain like that, go through rejection like that, because it doesn't feel good.
No.
And it messes with your psyche. And so, like the title that you have here, Mind, Body, and Soul. And so when you tax somebody's psyche like that, you're messing with their wholeness.
Yeah.
You're messing with their wholeness, and we all want to find some type of wholeness for us to move forward. We do.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
But I once again, though, I thank you for telling your story. I thank you for being a part of the fight, because it for somebody like me, it gives me more opportunities to learn, because I want to get better and better and better every day at what I do.
Yes.
And just on every level of life, but just being around people like you helps me grow as a human being as a whole. So I do appreciate you being here and being willing to tell your story.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
So, what's one of the main things that you would like your readers to be able to learn from your book?
Find what's going to work for you to live. And I mean, not just just taking the medication. I mean, find what's going to work for you to live, on the level of going to work, on the level of living with, whether it's your spouse or living by yourself, whether it's, what friends you're going to find out what you need to do to live. Because for me, one of the things that helped me, you were talking at the onset about being a seamstress. So being able to create brought life to me. It brought fuel to me. So that was one of the levels or areas that I used for myself. And then, there's another one, my children, wanting to see my children, grow up and see, what is it that can be a purpose in your life that is going to bring passion to you so that you can live. Because when you do that, everything in your life starts to line up with you living. But if in your mind you are thinking that you just, your psyche is telling you just want to die, then that's how everything's going to line up in your life. And you don't have to. You can live. We can live a full life. You can. You can become an entrepreneur. You can be, a doctor, whatever you want to be. You can do it. You just have to choose, put places and things in place for you to live.
Yes, man.
You just answered it.
Now that was beautiful. And that's on any level of life. Like, choose what you need to do to live.
Yes, sir.
Like,
even
that was beautiful.
Smallest thing, even if it's the smallest thing, even if it's just because you got a dog and you know that ain't nobody else gonna feed the dog like you feed the dog. I don't care what it is. You find out what level it is, and then because you do that, then more things will come in your life to help you continue to make the decision to live. So maybe you take the dog to the dog park. You meet somebody else got the same kind of dog. Now every time you go to the park, you try to meet up with them. More reasons to live. Now you're excited about going to the park, taking your dog. I don't care what it is. For me, it was exciting. What's the next customer? What's the next thing I'm going to sew for somebody? What's the next thing our children are going to bring home and tell us they're going to do? Oh, they're in the band now. They're doing this. More things keep coming to be in front of you for you to decide to live. You just take one, and then the rest will grow.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Find out what you need so you can live.
Yes.
So, that's my final question. And we have people who find out they're positive all the time, new positives. So from your experience and from all your knowledge and everything that you've gained over the years, what advice would you give to individuals and couples who are just now learning that they're HIV positive, but want a future, want to live, they want to push forward, but this is a new chapter in their life? What advice would you give with them to be able to push forward and find what they need to live?
Well, my first thing I would say is, because based on what I'm hearing, they're getting the information from somebody, and somebody's letting them know that they have it. I would encourage them to, once they find out, to really press into the resources that are available. And I think we've alluded to this through our whole thread. Don't turn into yourself. Just don't do that, because that to me you know, I don't want to be heavy, but it is heavy. You really just serving yourself a death sentence. Do not close into yourself. Get information from other people. Find out if there's, groups that could help you, find out if there's other couples and if they're willing to talk to you. Find out if there's other individuals, because all of us in our lives, we have communities. We create communities. Like you were talking about the community that was created by the people who were rejected. So if we want to, make it more positive, connect in the community that's going to work for you. What other individuals have it that you could talk to and talk about where, that they've been in it longer than you. Talk to them, find out what they've been doing. Couples, find other couples and find out what they were doing, to make life better. Like I said, we had a lot of negatives, so we had to, we had to pivot in so many areas and be innovative in so many areas of our lives, from taking care of our children to working to our sexual life, everything. We had to pivot and do things totally different. And so I would encourage you, get the information. Don't go into a shell. Don't let stigma or shame put you in a place where you are isolated, because again, that's snuffing life out of you.
And one of the things that we did when we started our marriage was we would never use the D word, divorce.
Yeah, we treated it like a cuss word.
Okay. And I just heard this, suicide is not an option. It's not an option because you have life, you have breath. As long as you have breath in your body, you have something to do.
Yes.
Suicide is not an option. It's not an option. And you have to say it to yourself. I will not use the S word. It is not an option because I have to live, because what it is that you are not, just because you contract this disease does not mean that you still aren't does not mean that you are not influencing somebody around you. You have to become an influence to everybody around you. You have to become a strength to somebody. Even in the midst of when you're first starting out, and I know it's going to be hurt. Right. It's going to be hurt. It's going to be pain. Yes. There's going to be rejection. There's going to be shame. There's going to be bitterness, resentment. There's going to be all that stuff. Let all that stuff take its course. Once you're done with it, be done with it, and then say, "Okay, God, where do you want me? Yes, this is where I am now. Where do I need to go from here?"
And sometimes it's a day-by-day decision.
Yeah,
because I remember in the beginning, there were, like every 5 minutes I was convincing myself. Okay. And then, a year later, it wasn't every 5 minutes. Maybe it was every 2 hours, and maybe 2 years later, now I ain't even got to convince myself anymore. But in the beginning, I'm saying, I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. And then the more you say that, before you know it, here we are 20 years later. And I don't even have to say that within my core conversation that I want to live. I'm just living now. But you have to fight through. Everything is a process. It's not like, we live in a generation where everything's quick. But understand that everything, when you have a diagnosis like this, it's not going to be a quick fix to get your mind wrapped around that. And you got to give yourself time to process that information.
Yes.
You got to give yourself time.
You got to give yourself time to process that information. And you've got to talk. You've got to talk. If you're a married couple and you contracted it, whether or not the husband gave it to the wife or the wife gave it to the husband, once you make that decision to stay together, be together, and you got to keep the lines of communication open. Keep the lines of communication open at all times. And I believe if you do that, God will put somebody in your place to help you traffic through it. He'll put somebody in your life that will help you traffic through it, and you're gonna start learning, getting the information, and then you're gonna help yourselves, and then you're gonna help the community.
Well said. Well said. Well said. I appreciate you. I appreciate you both, because conversation was rich. The conversation was beautiful. You gave a lot of great information, and not just information from a source, but from your own experience.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so powerful. And I appreciate that. Where can people, because I know somebody's looking at me and they jealous because I have.
Because you got a copy.
So where can people get that copy of your book?
Okay, first they can get a copy from us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have 25 copies available right now. We have a stock. And if you get it from us, we will sign it for you. And either you can pick it up if you live in the Tallahassee area, or we will mail it to you. That's one way. You can contact us by phone at 850-296-1945. That's 296-1945. Or you could email us, my husband, Robert E. Ward 2010 at gmail.com. And then my email, First Lady Ward, FIRST Lady Ward 11 at gmail.com. Or you can purchase it on Amazon, Amazon Kindle. You can purchase it from Barnes and Nobles, and you can purchase it from iTunes, or direct from the publisher, Christian Faith Publishing.
All right. Support.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Thank
gonna say it again, support, because that's what we're here to do. Make sure we not only give information and get information, but support each other along our way, because that's how we flourish as a community of people.
Absolutely.
And we're here as a health community to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward. So once again, I appreciate both of you, Pastors Robert and Jerilyn Ward, for coming by Mind Your Body and Soul, the healthiest podcast in the world.
There you go.
Yes, it is.
I like that.
You help really helping us further our mission. So want to remind everybody, Mind Your Body and Soul is an educational podcast that focuses on all things health related to help our listeners learn more about various health topics and information they may not have access to. We seek to inform, empower, uplift, mobilize, and to mobilize our listeners to become the healthiest versions of themselves. Remember, visit the Neighborhood Medical Center website at www.neighborhoodmedicalcenter.org, and also visit our podcast website at nmcpodcast.com. You can also listen to our podcasts on Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. View the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, and comment so other people can get it. So this is another edition of Mind Your Body and Soul. I know you like this episode. I know you do. So go ahead and tell everybody else about it and share it. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.